Hi, good evening. This is Sir Hassan Rasani here. Welcome to the day 4 of our practice to pass session on SBL for September 2020. I hope you guys are keeping well tonight. Right, so as usual, let's wait for one more minute. Hi guys, can you hear me? Very good. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Very good. Thank you. So let's wait for maximum one more minute as people are trying to join in, and then we will start with tonight's session. Right, so let's start. So today's game plan. All right, so before I talk about today's game plan, so those of you who are joining the session for the first time today, a warm welcome. And please note my WhatsApp number. Okay, and please send me a WhatsApp and I will add you to my global SBL WhatsApp group. And in case I'm not able to answer your question in tonight's webinar, you can always put your question on the WhatsApp group from where I will answer. Okay. Right. So today's plan, as usual, we will first talk about exam technique on how to present your answer. Then we'll move to topics, and today we will cover three important topics, which is risk management, project management, and internal controls. And during these three questions, we will be covering some professional skills like commercial acumen, communication, and evaluation skill. As far as the formats are concerned, we will be covering section of the report and more importantly, a project initiation document. So this is technique number 4. So far we have done three important techniques. The first techniques was how to link your answers with the exhibits. This was done in the first class. In the second class, we spoke about the number of points and maximum number of lines per mark. And yesterday in the third webinar, we spoke about time management techniques. So today we will talk about how to present your answer, like your formats and your drafting and all those things. So the first thing is linking answer to exhibit is a must. Okay. And no general answers or definitions required. So many students, they ask me, should we give a definition of the topic? Should we give an introduction about the topic? No need. Because again, I would remind you that always keep in mind that you are submitting your report to the board of directors. Okay, and you will never ever define a topic first in front of the board of directors. Okay, they're expected to know what you're going to talk about. Okay, then adopt paragraph style of writing. Okay, bullet style should be avoided. Bullet style is casual, but in a formal styling, our answer should be in a paragraph form. One paragraph should contain 1 point only. So many times the examiner feels that students, they try to squeeze several points under one paragraph. So that one paragraph, the size of that one paragraph is almost 1 page. So can you imagine a paragraph of 1 page? And why is it 1 page? Because people, they put in several points in that one paragraph. They just keep on writing and writing and writing. No, this is not how SBL works. 1 point, 1 paragraph. So if you're going to write 5 points, I want to visually see 5 distinct paragraphs. Okay, and your paragraph should not be lengthy. What should be the size of the paragraph? Around 4 to 6 lines max. And we spoke about it on the second day, right? The size, number of points, and the size of the paragraphs. So that means you need to give many small paragraphs. So if there are 5 points, 5 paragraphs. If you need to write 8 points, I want to see 8 paragraphs. And then leave one line between each paragraph. That's important from a visual point of view, because the examiner, they need to check so many papers, and this applies to both manual students as well as CBE students. Always leave one line between each para. It will open up your answer. It will become visually easy for the examiner to follow through and check your answer. He will not struggle. So if you are a manual paper student, then you leave one line between each para. And if you are a CBE student, once you complete a para, you press enter 2 times. How many times? You press enter 2 times. The first time you will press enter, it will give it will go down. Second time you will press enter, it will go one step, one row more downwards, right? So it will leave one space in between. Focus a lot on the format required in the question, and you've seen that in all our 3 days of a webinar, I was very particular and meticulous about the format. It does carry an impact on the examiner. Okay, look for stress words in the case, like very, extremely, significantly, notably. So these are stress words. And if you come across any stress word when you are reading the exhibit, try and use that sentence in your answer. Because if the examiner is placing some importance, if the examiner is saying something like it is competition is, there is significant competition. So he's actually putting a stress word. So you must never miss a point which carries a stress word. Okay. And then lastly, use of models is not mandatory. And I've been, talking about this ever since day one. So we just need to know some basic models. And here is the list of basic models. And I will talk about this list in tomorrow's class as well. Any questions? Okay, let me first finish this slide and then I will take questions. And then when you give recommendations, then mention the justification. So first of all, a recommendation should not be given until and unless the question asks you to give a recommendation. And in that scenario, when you are supposed to give a recommendation, then you also need to write a 3-liner justification of why you are recommending what you are recommending. Okay. Sometimes one requirement asks for 2 things. So this is an interesting thing. Sometimes one requirement asks for two things. So in one sentence, the examiner is asking you for two things. For example, I've given a real example here. In one of the questions, the examiner said, so I can clearly see that in this one sentence, the examiner is very quietly or smartly or discreetly asking two things. Are you guys able to figure out what are the two things he wants in this question? Take 5 seconds, read, and then see whether you're able to identify that he's asking for one thing or two things. Yes, excellent. Role and value. Very good. So he's saying assess the role and value. So role has a different meaning and value has a different meaning. So if you remember yesterday's lecture, luckily we discussed non-executive directors yesterday, right? So role means what they do. They have 4 roles. One is strategy, second is I don't remember, strategy, and one was risk, one was people, and I think one was nomination. No, sorry guys, I can't remember of that. And what is the value? Value means the advantages. What are the advantages of having NEDs on the board? So you see, the examiner has very quietly asked for two things. So what you will do in such a case? He says like 8 marks. So I want you to give subheadings. I want you to first give a heading role, and you mention the 4 roles, and after that you will give the heading value, and then you will mention 1, 2, 3 or advantages. Okay, so keep an eye on these kind of questions where the examiner innocently or quietly asks for two things under one sentence. Another example I have given is draft a memo which discusses the ethical and reputational concerns raised at the meeting. So in one reading, it would seem like it's a one requirement, but if you look closely, you need to discuss ethical concerns raised at the meeting, and you need to discuss reputational concerns. So it's a thin line between these two, but when you read this particular exhibit, you will be able to identify that there are few ethical concerns and few are reputational concerns. So it's always better that you give subheadings. First, you will write ethical concerns and mention 2 or 3 ethical concerns, and then you go to reputational concern subheading and mention 2 or 3 reputational concern. However, it doesn't mean that you have to mention same number of points between the two headings. It all depends on the availability of information, but at least give 2 subheadings so that the examiner clearly sees that you have addressed both the requirements. And last example is prepare briefing note which assesses the role and benefits of integrated reporting. We also did integrated reporting yesterday. So role of integrated reporting and then followed by benefits. Okay. And lastly, if a question asks you for identify weakness and recommend improvement, or identify risks and recommend mitigation factors, then use tabular format. I've been talking about it since yesterday. So these are some very basic points on how you will present your answer. Okay, now let me take some questions. Alia, please, I think you missed the lectures before. 8 points for 8 marks? I never. Please don't confuse other people. Where, okay, Siri Harsha asked a very interesting question. Sir, when I am writing SBL paper, I am having high level of confidence that I will pass. But when I check the answer with my suggested answers, I am getting 40 to 45%. So I believe that you are checking your answers from the suggested answers, provided by ACCA. If yes, then all the answers suggested or published by ACCA are not fit for examination conditions. Those are very, very ideal answers, and the examiner himself mentions many times that those answers are not expected under exam conditions, but the reason why they give such lengthy answers or such detailed answer is so that the students are able to see a variety of angles, so that their knowledge is broadened. So if you are checking yourself, if you are checking your answer with the suggested thing, by the published answers by ACCA, I think if your answer matches 40% with the examiner's answer, you should be safe. Okay. All right. Another question. Asan is saying a lot of instructors say if you don't use model, you lose certain marks. Well, let them say. They are talking theoretical or they are speaking bookish knowledge. But that's not the case. If you read examiner's comments, the examiner says he's not interested in them. He likes models, but he doesn't want students to use model unnecessarily. So try and just stick with basic models, okay? If it was a memo, we will use tabular format too. Yes, please. Even if it's a memo, you will use a tabular format. There is no harm in putting a table in a memo. Sir, it's ACCA recommendation to use tabular format in weakness and recommendation. Yes, it is. Is there a handout for day 5? Of course, there is a handout for day 5, but I'm not going to share it. I will share it tomorrow because there is some interesting stuff in that. So I want people to attend the last day webinar so that they don't miss it. Won't writing bullets be more easier to read? Oh, yes. But again, will you write bullet points to the board of director and to the chairman? I've said 100,000 times, think like you are submitting your answer to the board of directors or to the chairman. So never, okay? Sometimes we forget the models. Models are necessary to pass. Please don't ask questions which I have answered several times. Models are not necessary in SBL. Okay, I think many questions are from students who have not attended my day 1 to day 3 webinars. Roles and responsibilities, that's probably the same things. How can you ask question from the tutor? There is a question box where you can type again. No need for sorry. All right, guys, that's cool. Now let's move. Today we've got 3 big topics, okay? Right, the first one is risk management. Almost all the attempts has a question on risk management. So very, very, very important topic. Now there are 5 possible questions which can come under risk management. Okay, I repeat, there are 5 types of questions or 5 possibilities of questions which may be asked under risk management. The first possibility is the question may ask you to identify the main risks which the organization is facing. So obviously there will be some information in the exhibits, and then you will have to identify the main risks which are mentioned in that exhibit. Okay. So for you to identify, you must be familiar with various types of risk. So if you see this list, I've given a list of the most important possible risks. So in the exam, the examiner expects you to identify the risk and give a proper name to that risk. Okay. So for example, then it's important that you remember this list and know the meaning of each of this of the risks mentioned on this list, so that if you come across any of these risks while reading the exhibit, you can easily identify. So first of all, the most important is something called business risk. What's the meaning of business risk? Can anybody guess? Think. Business risk. Going concern. No, not impact on profitability. Strategy failing. Yeah. So just read it in reverse. Business risk means your entire business is at risk now. So something serious is going to happen. Maybe the industry is become mature or is in declining phase, and so something serious which is affecting the entire business, and which if it is not addressed, it may eventually lead to going concern. Strategic risk is also very similar, which means that your strategies can go wrong, and obviously if your core strategies goes wrong, ultimately it will affect your business and it will turn into a business risk. Financial risk, a very important one. It covers two things. Okay, financial risk talks about profitability. So for example, if your revenues are falling and because of that your profitability is going down, and or you're making consistent losses, that's a financial risk, because consistent losses would eat up your cash, would eat up your capital and reserves, and eventually you will shut down. So financial risks. So if the company is struggling financially, which or performance wise, that's a profitability wise, it's a financial risk. The second thing is capital structure, like equity versus debt, or gearings, high gearings. So the way the companies are structured, this also comes under financial risk. So being finance students, you're expected to be very, very familiar with this word financial risk. But in simple terms, just remember, if you read that the company's revenue is going down, the profits are going down, it is a financial risk. Or if you see that now it's difficult to raise capital, or it's difficult to arrange finance or debts, or the gearing is going up, again it's a financial risk. Okay. Liquidity risk. We all know liquidity risk means that we do not have sufficient cash to pay our current liabilities, right? Credit risks means that our customers are unable to pay their debts. We are unable to collect the receivables. That's credit risk, and it's gonna affect my cash flows. Okay. Foreign exchange risk. This is applicable in a scenario when the company is either buying goods from foreign suppliers or suppliers based in other countries, or if the company is selling goods to customers who are from other countries. So when there is a difference of currencies, so you are exposed to foreign currency risk. And do you know how you can mitigate foreign currency risks? Either you can take forward exchange covers, or you can hedge, or you deal with your basic currency. You just offer them you do the transaction in your home currency with those guys. Intellectual risks, it is mostly patents and innovation, brand, all intangible, and your very key staff leaving you and walking away with all the strategies and formulas and joining a competitor. It's all intellectual risks. Do I have any questions in these six lists before I move to other ones? R&D, yes, R&D is intellectual, brand is intellectual, derivatives is foreign currency risk, skilled staff, technical, yes, correct. Does having foreign subsidiary can lead to foreign currency risk? Very good question. Definitely yes. Sales depleting under which risk? Mohammed Shamil, you tell me. I just explained very nicely. If your revenues are depleting, which risk will it go to? Financial risk. Okay, when your profitability or revenues is down, it's financial risk. Is there any difference between strategy risk and business risk? Yes, very small difference. Business risk is my business is at risk. Strategic risk is that my strategies may go wrong. And if your strategies go wrong, it will lead to business risk. Credit risk and liquidity risk are relatable. Yes, they are relatable. Intellectual risk, it is risks to your patents, research and development, innovations, and key stuff. Loss of customers is business risk. Yes, it's a business risk, and it can also be a financial risk because loss of customers means loss of revenue. Do we have to give these headings while writing business risk? Huh? Which headings? Business risk doesn't have any heading. It's business risk itself is a heading. How to mitigate business risk? It depends why your business is going down. Might be diversification, adding more products, adding more in industries, adding more geographies. Dishonesty, I will talk. Operational risk, yeah, it's there. So I have not given the list of everything. So that's the main thing. Now let's talk about this one. Political risk mainly means that the government is not stable. The political situation of the country is not stable. Legal and compliance risk means that there are a lot of laws, they are continuously changing, and there's a complex legal system, and there's a risk that you might not be able to comply with all the risks and end up giving fines or reputational issues. Okay, legal and compliance. Environmental risk to the natural environment like spillage and pollution, you're causing damage to the environment. Reputation risk, very, very important. This is a risk which can cause damage to your brand or reputation or goodwill. Health and safety risk means that this is a, there is a possible bodily injury or death to your employees or to your customers or suppliers or society around you. So any bodily threat is health and safety. Technology risk is that if you are dependent on certain technologies and if that technology becomes redundant, then you face that risk. Okay, so most of them are self-explanatory. If you read them in reverse, if you focus on them, you would be definitely able to identify what it means. However, in the exam, you are expected to use these words. When the examiner says identify main risk, please use these words. Okay, that's okay. So the most common type of question is identify main risk, and then it is also followed by give recommendations. So obviously, if you have identified a particular risk, then you must be able to suggest mitigation strategies. Okay, how do you do it? You just read the risk carefully and reverse it to arrive at the recommendation. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not work. Sometimes you might need a common sense, or sometimes the case will provide you some information why that particular risk is happening. So if you can just cover the reasons and reverse it, you will come up with a recommendation by default. Let me check for questions. Legal and compliance. I mean, what's your question, Vane? Do we need to write risk heading like business risk, credit risk in exam? It's good if you can write heading. I'm always in favor of small headings. Environmental risk could cause reputational risk. 100% yes. It can cause reputational risk. It can cause even business risk, because if it's something big, you're gonna lose your license. If the economy is going down, under which risk? Financial risk or business risk? There's a very thin line between business risk and financial risk. Okay. Won't a tabular format seem less professional? No, please. Please follow the tabular format. How is it less professional? Operational risk is also there. I have not included in the list. There are 50 more risks out there in the world, but I have just given you the most important ones, or the risks which have been used many times by the examiner. There could be overlapping points here. Absolutely, yes. I will give you a recommendation example. Just wait, we will do a proper question. Yes, Yogesh, you are right. Total 3 marks. You remember yesterday? So if we get a question on risk plus recommendation, then we divide by 3, right, to arrive at the number of points. So it's total 3 marks for 1 risk and 1 recommendation. Can you explain probability risk? Probability risk is dishonesty, dishonest employees doing fraud, or giving bribes, or taking kickbacks. This is probability risk, is in fraudulent activities by your employees. Probability risk. Okay. Please ask questions relating to this slide only. Thank you, Junaid. Right. So let's move on. Another question is, which the examiner can ask, is why risk varies company to company. Okay. So listen to my question. My question to you is, does each and every company faces the same level or same type of risks, or does the level of risk varies from company to company? Think about it. 10 seconds. Does all company faces exactly same type of risks, or does the risks varies from company to company? Yes, very good. Very good, guys. You are saying it could vary. You sure? It varies, yeah? All the companies cannot have identical risks. So now, what are the reasons why company risks varies between company to company? What could be the reason? Do you think the size of the company matters? Do you think the geographical location of the company matters? Yes. Not all companies are of same size. Not all companies are located in the same city or the same country or the same region. Do you think growth phase of the company matters? Like some companies may be in a startup phase. Some companies are already very established and some are in declining phase. So also depends on the growth phase of the company. Then you think business model or strategies also matter? Of course, every company have different business model or different strategies. Some are physical business, some are online, some are following a hybrid model. So also, risk will differ between the companies. And then also the financing structure, like how much capital, how much equity, sorry, how much loan, what's the gearing. So because not because companies, organizations are not identical, that is why the risks are also not identical. So what was the topic, guys? Why risk varies from company to company. You must remember these 5 reasons, because it depends on the size, the location, the growth phase, the business strategies or models, and the financing structure. Any questions? Yes, very good, easy. Today I feel you guys are more smarter. You guys are getting smarter day by day. Very good. Now similarly, do you think all industry they face exactly same risks, or the risk varies between industry and industry? For example, a banking sector versus oil and gas sector. Do they? These are two very broad industries, banking and oil and gas. Do they face exactly the same risks, or risk will vary from industry to industry? Think, imagine banking sector compared with oil and gas sector. Their risks are completely different. So risk varies from industry to industry as well. And what could be the reasons? Because the nature of products are different. It could be a financial industry versus a manufacturing industry. The level of investment can differ. The level of regulations. Some industries are highly regulated. Some industries are less regulated. That is why, the legal and compliance risk will vary from industry to industry. Ecological aspects. Oil and gas has a lot of ecological impact. So there are more considerations. Environmental risks will be very high in oil and gas. Technological aspects, firms like high-tech firms like Facebook and Amazon, who are heavily dependent on technology, they face technology risks. So very easy topic, but in the exam somehow the students, they get confused. So just ask a very simple question in your mind. Does every company faces the same risk? No, right? So and automatically things will start coming into your head. Let me see any questions. Tesla. What will be the type of question? The examiner, the question will simply say why the risks in this particular industry is higher than other industries. Okay, so you will say the risk in our industry is higher as compared to other industries because of da 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 da. You will look at ecological impacts, technological, ecological, regulatory, investments, and the nature of product. Now, risk diversification. So one of the ways where you can mitigate your risk is diversification. Don't put all eggs in one basket. So diversification means spreading. Okay, spread your risk, diversify. Now, whenever we talk about diversification, there are 3 levels of diversification. How much? 3 levels of diversification. How much? 3 levels of diversification. You should never forget it now. The first level of diversification is product diversification. That you add more products. You remain in the same industry, but you add more products. So for example, I'm a I'm a restaurant and I'm selling fast food, and then I diversify at a product level. I start selling bakery items or proper food as well, and juices as well. So I'm adding more stuff to my menu. That's product diversification. The next level of diversification is called industry diversification, where you actually move into diversify into other industries. You are not dependent on one industry. So you can diversify into something related, or you can diversify into something completely new and unrelated to your existing business. So if I'm a restaurant, I can diversify and I open uh, coffee houses, okay, or I can diversify and I can open a school, or I can diversify or open up a maternity hospital. It's all diversification. Some of it is related, some of it might be unrelated. The third possible diversification is geographical diversification. That you should not concentrate in any one city or any one country or any one region. Normally, if you concentrate in one country, if the economy of the country goes down, you are screwed. If the political situation of the country goes down, you are screwed, right? For example, last week, this very, very sad incident happened in Lebanon. There was such a huge blast in Lebanon that more than half the city was just destroyed. Okay, so if you had a business in Lebanon, it was your end. So if you know the way you can diversify, a geographical diversification helps you to spread your country risks, currency risk, economic risks, political risks. Okay, so whenever you see a question on diversification, immediately remember that there are three types of diversification. You can diversify based on product, you can diversify based on industry, and you can diversify based on location. Let me check for questions. Product diversification is a related diversification. Yes, yes, I think you're right. Is industry diversification same as market diversification? Yeah, okay. If you say so. Unrelated like a conglomerate? Yes, absolutely correct. Unrelated diversification is more risky? Absolutely correct. Does market diversification and geographical diversification same? Okay. See, market diversification is a word which is used for both industry diversification, and it is also used as a word which is also used for geographical diversification. So market diversification is a broad terminology, includes both industry and geographical diversification. Best part of being a excuse me, best part of being a CFO, fat bonuses. Okay. Conglomerate means Google, please. Can we use growth vector model for these diversification explanation? Excuse me, Mr. Admin, can you shoot this guy? I've been shouting my lungs that please stay away from models, and you are bringing such a stupid model. Please stay away. Okay, don't take me seriously, okay? All right, guys, move on. I'm glad today you guys are. It's not an easy topic, so I'm glad today you guys are following, understanding stuff very nicely. All right, last two things: risk mitigation strategy. So the examiner may ask you, please advise steps how the organization can mitigate risks. So, all these good organizations, the bigger organizations, the multinationals, They focus a lot on risks and then risk management. How do they do risk management? The first and foremost, they want to create a culture of risk management. They say that risk management is not a task, it is a mindset. So they want that all the employees, whatever work they do, whatever decisions they take, they keep risk management in their mind and in the considerations. Okay, so they create a organization-wide culture of risk management. Then they adopt a risk management framework. Okay, just like there is financial reporting framework, there are, or for risk management there are also lots of frameworks, and the most famous and commonly used framework for risk management is called COSO's Enterprise Risk Management Framework. It's called COSO's ERM. So all organizations who wants to adopt proper risk management strategies, they adopt COSO's ERM framework. And then they can, the next thing they do is they adopt risk management strategies, which is TARA framework. We will cover TARA. No, we will not cover TARA framework, but TARA framework. Do you know TARA framework? T for transfer, avoid, reduce, and transfer, avoid, reduce, and something I don't remember. Risk committees. There must be, good companies have risk committees, especially the listed companies. It's mandatory. Then larger companies will have risk managers, and they will have regular risk audits. So just remember these few steps, which are important if the question says risk mitigation strategies can include what things. TARA is transfer, avoid, reduce, or accept. Thank you so much. COSO for internal control and risk are same. Earlier, COSO covers both things. There are, two broad modules in it. There's a COSO for risk management and COSO for internal controls as well, because internal controls is part and parcel of risk management. Okay. Yes. Do we need to go through COSO's ERM framework? No, please. What is a framework? I am sorry, I should have explained what is a framework. Framework is some guidelines. Okay, so like IFRS are proper, authentic, globally accepted guidelines, right? So IFRS is a accounting reporting framework. Similarly, there are proper proper guidelines for risk management as well. Heat maps, heat map I would have explained, but in CBE, after CBE, I don't expect heat maps to come in the exam, because you need to draw heat maps and you can't draw heat maps on Word or Excel. Right, so the first and foremost, embed in the culture of the organization. So how do you embed something in the culture of the organization? This could come in the exam, that the company wants to embed or introduce risk management in the culture. So the first thing is commitment from top management. So anything which you need to create the culture for, it has to come top down. So commitment from top management. You have a formal risk committee, you adopt ERM framework, a lot of training for employees at the time of orientation, include in their job descriptions, rewards. So all these activities will collectively, slowly and gradually start creating a culture of risk management in the organization. Okay. Last thing, advantage of having a separate risk committee. So we had discussed this yesterday, that having a separate risk committee has its own advantages. For example, it is more specialized, it is more focused, it can spend more time as compared to the full board. The full board can focus more on strategic issues, and having separate committee means higher involvement of NEDs and improves the confidence of the shareholders. Let me go through some questions. Can we include risk register and risk policies in risk culture? Yeah. Anything which can encourage the environment of risk, anything which can increase the importance of risk management, you can include. Sir, we haven't covered presentation slides. Yes, we will do a question on that tomorrow. Pavitra, it is PDF annotator, PDF annotator software. Surprise disclose. No. Tomorrow, okay, I'll disclose the surprise. Tomorrow, the main thing is I will disclose the list of important topics, list of practice questions, and most important, I will discuss some dangerous technical articles which were published a couple of months back, and I expect a proper question on those. And those dangerous technical articles are called blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Okay, so we'll talk about it tomorrow. All right, so we've done this. Whenever you see a question on risk, try and give a tabular format, assume 3 marks for one risk, and if they say identify the risk, give the impact, and then recommend. In this case, you will create 3 columns, and then you will assume 4 marks for 1 point. Okay, 1 point means 1 risk followed by the impact and the recommendation. Right, so let's do one question. Our speed is a little bit slow, so I need to pick up. Exam question practice number 6, topic is risk management, SBL specimen number 1, DCS question number 2A. I think we did this question yesterday. DCS, is this DCS? Yeah, 2A. So let me open 2A. In the October board report, the executive directors refer to a number of factors affecting DCS and the need to choose one of the 2 alternative strategic options. You now need to do the following. Required, draft a section of the report to identify and discuss 3 main risks which DCS company currently faces. Okay, identify 3 risks, plot them on a heat map, and then recommend appropriate strategies to manage those risks using an appropriate risk management framework. So a risk management framework is TARA: transfer, accept, reduce, or avoid. So there are 4 possible things we can do with a risk. Either we try to reduce it, or we try to avoid it altogether, or we try to accept it, which means we just do nothing, we accept it as we go along, or we try to transfer it to someone like outsourcing or insurance or something, transfer the risk to someone else. So let's look at the October report and try to identify 3 main risks. October report is here. So you don't need to read the whole report. I'll just tell you where. So do you see this this thing, this heading, this risk and opportunities? What are the, so this is a it is a October, it's a report by Jules, marketing director, to the board. Okay, so you are reading this report and it says what are the specific risks and opportunities which affect DCS ability to create value, blah 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 blah. So what are the specific risks and opportunities? So we will just read. Okay guys, you guys read this 3 paragraph. Let me enlarge it. Okay, now can you guys read this from here to here and see if you are able to identify 3 risks? Okay, I give you 2 minutes. Time starts now. I do understand that you haven't read the background, so I will help you with that, but first read and then I'll explain. One more minute. Right. So were you able to identify the main risk which this company is facing? So for example, just let me give a quick background that this company has 2 products. Okay. The first product is called data communication component. And this product contributes 65% to my total revenue. Okay. And what's happening to this? The international market for data communication component started to saturate and decline. Doesn't sound good to me. And this is a product which contributes 65% to my revenue. And the remaining 35% of the revenue comes from another product which is called supply and support of contracts. So this product is also facing some issues. We are now finding it increasingly difficult and costly to maintain the required level of network support. It is getting harder to recruit high caliber staff. The headquarters is on a location which is unattractive for key personnel to relocate. So all these things is making life miserable for the second product as well. So if your company has two products and both of them are going through a very, very difficult situation, which risks will you take this to? It's business risk. Now I think these are such big risks that if you don't do anything, it will eventually lead to a going concern. So I would say business risk. Okay, it could be a strategy risk, but I think it's more of a business risk. Now you are in a wrong industry altogether. Your industry is mature, it's declining. Okay, so I would say the number one risk is business risk, and you will copy paste. You will mention all these arguments there, but obviously not in a lot of detail, because what's the marks? Did anybody see the marks? 6 plus 2, 8. 8 divided by 3. How much is this? 8 divided by 3. So we need to give 3 points, 3 risks. Okay. So how do you mitigate this risk? The only way you can mitigate this risk is diversification, right? You add more products, you change industry, you do a geographical diversification. Remember 3 levels of diversification. Diversification is a tool through which you mitigate risks or you spread your risk. So if your current products are mature, you innovate and come up with new products. If your location is a problem, you do a geographical diversification. Okay. I'm not going to solve it, but do you understand the concept? I already answered business risk versus strategic risk in the start. Very good. Now, what's the second risk? Banks are now tightening their credit lines and placing covenants on us to keep financial gearing. So this one is affecting my sources of financing, sources of funding. What do we do? Which risk? Financial risk. No, it's not liquidity risk, Anna. Liquidity risk means that your current assets or your cash is unable to pay your current liabilities. Liquidity risk is day-to-day cash, okay? This is financial risk. So who's saying credit risk? Haris, my friend, credit risk means your customers are not paying their invoices. Okay, this is your bank, this is your lender. So it's financial risk. And how do you solve it? If your debt financing is not there, what are the other options? And it's mentioned here. It is unlikely that any future growth or investment can be financed from further debt, and we would need to use our considerable cash reserves or utilize internally generated funds, or they can raise equity based financing like ordinary shares or right issues. Okay, so mitigation factors are already given to you in the scenario. Let me look at questions. Equity financing, better working capital, reserves, using your cash reserves. Shilpa, very good. I don't want to. You are confused between financial and liquidity risk. Oh my God. Liquidity risk is day-to-day cash, my friend. Current assets being used to pay your current receivable assets like debtors and cash being used to pay your current liabilities like accounts payable. But a financial risk is something much bigger. Financial risk means you are either into continuous losses, you are losing revenues and profitabilities, your business will eventually end up in going concern, you are not able to raise capital or raise big finances for projects. Financial risk is much, much bigger than liquidity risk. Okay. Liquidity risk pertains to working capital. Yes, you can say that. Framework used like Tara framework. Yes, so we will say that we can actually, this is a specimen paper, so the nature of the questions are not very good. So the framework we were supposed to use is Tara framework. So if we are facing financial risks here, so we are trying to reduce the risk, okay, by we're looking at equity financing. We are not trying to transfer the risk. We are not trying to avoid the risk altogether. We're not trying to accept or do nothing. We're trying to reduce this risk. So reducing is one of the strategies of the Tara model. Same goes for this thing. Okay, so do not confuse with Tara model here. It's not a nice question to apply Tara model. So we were supposed to give 3 risks. So I need one more risks. I'm struggling to find a risk from here. Can anybody help me out? One more risk. Intellectual risk. Okay. Human resource risk. The location strategy risk. Technological risk. Okay. So I think intellectual risk is better because they are finding it hard to find, the right technical people. So technical people whom your business is highly dependent on can fit under intellectual thing. Okay, maybe. Geographical risk, not really. Geographical risk is something at a country level. They are saying that their location, like in their area or where their office is located, where their headquarters is located, that area is not good. Supply chain risk, I don't know how you can link this with the case. What will be the recommendation of intellectual risk? So we will look at the reason why this risk is there. We are facing intellectual risk. We are facing why we are unable to recruit good people is because of our headquarters location. So we must try and change and move to a location where we are able to attract good technical resources, or we try and set up work from home or an online setup where physical location doesn't matter and employees can work from home. All right, enough. Otherwise, in this question, if you read some other exhibit, there's a big risk on environmental factors. Okay, carbon footprint and this and that. So if you can't think of any third risk, you can always mention environmental risk. It is not from this exhibit, it's from another exhibit. But if you are struggling, you can always use any information from other exhibit, and you will get marks. Okay. Now, do you guys need a break now, or we do project management? Or I have an idea. Wait. Project management is a big topic. You need to be a little fresh on that. So let's do project management after the break. Okay, let's do the third topic first. Internal controls. It's a very small and a very interesting topic, and it will be done in a short while. Just give me a second. I'll just have a glass of water, please. Right, internal control systems. So do you know what is internal control system? There's a stupid definition. You can, let me go through it, but I'll explain to you in layman terms. But let's first read the definition. Okay? An internal control system comprises the whole network of systems established in an organization to provide a reasonable assurance that organizational objectives will be achieved and the assets will be safeguarded. Okay, let me try and explain using a simple diagram. Right, so do you know that all organizations, they face risks? Okay, if you open up a company, it faces certain risks. So how do you protect yourself from risk? You have to do risk management. Okay, because you face risks, you do risk management. Now, what is risk management? That you try and manage the risk so that either the risks, they do not incur or happen, or in case the risk happens, it is mitigated or reduced to a tolerable, manageable level. So because we face risk, we need to do risk management. One of the most important way of risk management is to have proper internal controls. So then internal control means that you have a proper system, proper process of each and every activity, and because everybody follows a particular system or a process, internal controls, they help to minimize or mitigate the risks. Understand? So how do we make sure that internal controls are working properly? We have internal audit function. So it's job of internal audit to make sure that internal controls are working properly. And how do we know that internal audit is working properly? There is audit committee which oversees the performance of internal audit. So this is a simple chain from top to bottom. It all starts from risks. How do we, what do we do about risks? We implement risk management strategies. One of the most important component of risk management is internal controls. How do we know internal controls are working? How do directors get any assurance? So there is internal audit. And how do we know internal audit is functioning? There is audit committee. So here, now you understand the role of internal controls. These are a whole set of systems, controls, and processes through which we make sure that everything is happening in a proper manner. And one of the core purpose of internal control is to minimize the risks. So now what is the purpose or importance or advantage, whatever you want to call, of internal control? Now it's simple. It helps in achieving the organization's objective, orderly and effective conduct of business. Forget about the difficult ones. It mitigates the risks, safeguarding of assets, ensures that the completeness, that the accounting records are accurate and complete, effective financial reporting, prevention of fraud, compliance with laws, proper reliable information for decision making. So all these are the advantages of internal controls, or all these are the objective or purpose of internal controls, and all these are also the importance of internal controls. Okay. Now, what kind of questions is in the exam? So first of all, let me tell you that every SBL attempt, there has been a question on internal controls. However, the questions were more practical. They were not like this theoretical, bookish definitions or advantages. All the questions to date are very practical, very interesting. You don't need to know any chapter, you don't need to know any topic or syllabus or model to answer these kind of questions. Okay, so we'll do a question right now, but before that, again the same thing. Whenever you see a question on internal control weaknesses and recommendation, table format, divide by 3. And if it says identify the weakness, discuss the impact, and give recommendation, then divide by 4. SBL September 2018, question number 3B. September 2018, I have to go back. September, okay, strategic, no, this one, September 2018. And we need to read the question 3B. 3B. This is not September, my friend. September. Can you guys see September? Come on. Sorry guys, I'm not able to see September 2018, even though it's assigned. Are you able to see on my screen somewhere? Oh, refresh. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Good idea. Thank you, guys. Let me refresh. Yeah, it works now. Thank you so much. I'm a bit off today. It seems September 2018. Thank you so much. Question 3B. I go to question 3 and I pick up 3B, huh? So it says prepare like a summary for CC's board to review, assessing the control weaknesses discussed at the emergency meeting, stating for each control its consequence and recommendations for improvement. 3 things. It wants you to talk about weaknesses, stating the consequence of that weakness, followed by recommendation. 14 marks and then professional marks for evaluation skills by basing explanations of significant control weaknesses on the information provided and recommending appropriate improvement. So in evaluation skill, they have defined what exactly they want you to do. So you need to give a balanced pros and cons. So when we talk about weakness, that's a con, but when we talk about a recommendation, that's a pro, so it will be a balanced thing. 14 plus 4, 18 marks. So if I divide 18 by 3, let's say, for example, 18 divided by 3, 6 weaknesses. And if I divide 18 divided by 4, 4.5. So between 5 and 6 weaknesses we need to mention. It all depends on the exhibit. Okay. Now let's go through the exhibit. This is a exhibit for transcript of emergency meeting. All right, guys. This is a transcript of a meeting. Present is Burton, who is the chief executive, Imena, who is the chairman, Alan is the risk manager, and Pat is the consultant. Actually, your role in this question is Pat. You are Pat, okay? The meeting began at 10 a.m. Burton opened the meeting by playing the following clip from Beatles news program about the break-in from earlier morning. There was a break-in. So you remember this question, Beetle? I think we did this question, right? So this was this company, Cofold Construction, which is building the largest road in a neighboring country called Beetle. Presenter. 2 protesters were seriously injured last night after they broke into one of the construction sites for the new road through the I mountain. So bad thing, huh? 2 protesters were seriously injured because they broke into our construction site. The break-in is an escalation. Why did they break in? It's an escalation of the recent protest against the new road. Protesters have been unhappy that they have not been able to meet with Burton, the chief executive. That's just a background, okay? There's no weakness there. Now let's come here where the weakness is. Burton, I thought that showing the news report was the best way to brief you on what happened, although Alan had found out more since. Alan, I've spoken to our employees and the staff from Solin Security, the security firm in Beetle, which we use. It seems that they both went to deal with the protesters at the main entrance. Imena, were there only 2 security staff on site? Yes, the contract only states that the security post should be manned at all times. Interesting. So I think that the protesters were able to break in because we just have 2 security guards. I just shaded it. Let's Imena. The news report mentioned an attempt break-in last week. Were we told about it? Alan, the security staff said that they reported it to their managers, but no one from Solin Security appears to have contacted us. Strange. So there was a break-in attempt last week as well, but the management was never informed. Isn't that a weakness? What do you think? Yeah, good. What more do we know about what happened once the protesters got in? The protester who was injured ran across an unlit service road and the van collided with him. Seriously? My God. So there was a protester who was running inside our construction site, and there was a dark, unlit road, and the van collided with him. Oh my God. Oof. What's the weakness here? You see the weakness? Okay. Should the area have been lit better? This is chairman. Huh? So Alan is saying apparently lighting was one of the things picked up by Lee Kurata, our health and safety manager, when he visited the site 2 months ago. Staff said that the lighting was going to be fixed before internal audit visit planned for next month. So lighting was an issue which was already reported in the health and safety manager's report 2 months back. And even after 2 months, the lights have not been fixed, and they are saying that we will fix it next month before internal audits visit. Wow. So why isn't Lee here? Who's Lee? Oh, Lee is the health and safety manager. Lee's been off sick for last 6 weeks. We will have to get a temporary replacement in now to fill the gap caused by Lee's absence. So the health and safety manager is absent for last 6 weeks, and nobody is, working in his position. Did Lee submit his report on the site before he went sick? Button. I did receive, but the points were generally minor. We've had so much else to discuss at the board meetings recently that I haven't had a chance to report on health and safety. Okay. So this is a point which is supposed to be taken under advantages of having a separate risk committee. Okay, so leave it here. What more do we know about the protester who collided with the van? I haven't spoken to the driver yet, but I have spoken to the security guard who chased the protester. He didn't see the collision, only the aftermath. How about the protester who claimed to have seen his friend being run over? I'm not sure whether he would have been able to see clearly what happened as the lighting was so poor. He had also fallen over a patch of oil which hadn't been mopped up. This was why the guard was able to catch him. Oh my God. So the other protester, he also fell over a patch of oil which wasn't mopped up. Yep, you told me earlier, Burton, that our lawyers. All right, done. So, the rest of the material is for some other questions. So, guys, are you able to identify weaknesses from this interview? So, what's the first weakness? Insufficient number of security staff. Do you agree? What's the first weakness? Yes. Insufficient security staff, or insufficient number of security staff, or you can say only 2 security staff on site. Okay, so how about the format? This is question number 3B. So let me go to 3B. So I'd already done this with a little while, when I was practicing myself. So the format would be, I would like to have 3 columns: weakness, consequence, recommendation, because all these 3 are required in your tasks. So what's the weakness? There were only 2 security staff on site. So what's the consequence? What happened? What can go wrong if there are only two guards? So I just simply said protesters were able to break in from the other entry points as there was insufficient number of guards. You can also say unauthorized people can enter our project construction site. There could be theft or there could be malicious intents. Okay, whatever you think can be the consequence. What do you recommend now? What is your recommendation? Let's think. Any recommendation? How do you fix this weakness? Increase in the number of security guards. Very good, Desire. Very good. It's simply whatever is the weakness, turn it around, and it becomes the recommendation. I repeat, whatever is the weakness, turn it around and it becomes the recommendation. Insufficient number of security guard, what will be the recommendation? They should have sufficient number of, or they should have number of guards which is sufficient enough to guard all the entry points and the entire construction site in a reasonable and safe manner. Can we suggest change of security company? No, no, Shilpa, because if you bring another company, they will also give you two guards because the contract says two guards. It is your decision. So the root cause is not the security company. The root cause is that you have been stupid and you just told them you need two guards. So you actually need to increase the number of guards. Okay. Of course, can we revise the terms? Yes, we will. But what will you revise? What will you tell them? Just come to the point. Increase the number of guards. Forget about revise the contract, this and that. First, you give the main thing that you increase the number of guards. Halas. Okay. Okay. What's the weakness number 2? The security staff said that they had reported it. Oh, there was some break-in last week. Yeah, sorry, this is not highlighted, but this was break-in last week. But the Koffold management was not informed. So what is the weakness here? Attempted break-in of last week was not informed to CC's management. Fine. So the security company did not inform us. That's the weakness. What can go wrong? What is the consequence if management is not informed of any bad or abnormal safety security situation? So consequence is CC is unaware of any security breaches and hence were not able to take preventive actions. Had they knew last week, they would have been informed last week, they might have increased the security now, right? And then what do you recommend? That the security company should be strictly instructed that any security breach should immediately be brought to the attention of CC's management. Simple. No long stories, no going left, no going right, just focus on the meat. Some core words, some basic common sense point, and move on. Do you understand the approach? Yes, Shilpa, you are right. Okay, so what else? 2 down. 3 weaknesses more to go. So unlit service, okay. I'm speeding up, I'm not going to details. Unlit service road, improper lighting, consequence It can lead to health and accidents and health and safety issues of the employees or any customers or public. And what do you recommend? That all the entire project site should be sufficiently lighted so that any accident can be avoided. Simple. And then this weakness, that this insufficient lighting was reported 2 months ago, but they have not done anything. In fact, they were waiting for 1 more month. What's the consequence? If you do not implement the recommendations quickly, they will lead to more and more accidents and reputational issues. What do you recommend? That all health and safety related reports should be immediately addressed and implemented, and they should not be delayed. Now Lee has been sick for last 6 weeks. He or she, I don't know, is not reporting at work for last 6 weeks, and nobody's doing their job. What's the consequence? The consequence would be that there's no health and safety manager available. So any health and safety issues will be unaddressed. Recommendation that until Lee is returns back, there should be the health and safety, the role of health and safety manager should be delegated or substituted to some other appropriate person. And what about this oil patch? Didn't mop up, he slipped, he fell. So understand? So now I have a question. Which syllabus or model or topic is required here to answer this type of a question, other than common sense? Yeah. Internal control is the topic. Tara, come on, who said Tara? Where did I use Tara in this question? TRM, which? Oh, come on. Which chapter you read? Were you able to do this question without reading any technical thing? It was just a common sense thing to identify a weakness, less security guards, less lighting, oil spillages, all these things, just common sense. Okay, so, and I can see it's not very common. Right, so the good news is that this kind of question is almost there in every attempt. And I feel that these are high scoring questions and a little bit of time saving questions, because it's, you just quickly identify some risks, some consequences, and a quick recommendation. But at least even if it's not time saving, it is high scoring because it's just common sense. Okay, so I hope that also in your attempt this kind of question comes. And look at the marks, 14 plus 4, 18 marks for such a question. And it's a real paper, huh? It's a September attempt paper. It's not a specimen paper. So 18 marks is, if I score like at least 12 marks, it would be awesome. All right, do I have any questions before we go for a break? So did we apply evaluation skill? Indirectly, yes, not in proper sense. Evaluation skill means giving a balanced view to the thing, right? The balanced view to the board. So we are talking about weaknesses, then we talked about consequences, and we talked about recommendations. So that's a complete holistic balanced view, right? So in that sense, yes, we did achieve evaluation skill. Mohammed Shamil, good one. Yes, you can, but it's too long, too lengthy. How will you do referencing of this type of question? This is a one-to-one exhibit. Did you attend yesterday's lecture where I said one-to-one exhibit and one-to-many? No, no, sorry. This is not a one-to-one. It is a transcript. There are, so you just mark and you just write question number 3B. You just write 3B up in front of all the weaknesses. That's it. And then, or you can copy paste all the weaknesses under your in your Microsoft Word processor. Right, so let's take a break, and after that we will do a heavy duty topic called called project management. It is 10 minutes past 10. So hang on. So let's meet at 10:20 p.m. Okay. My pen is not working, so I'm not able to write here. 10 to 10:20. Is it 10:10? 10:25. 15 minutes break, and then we start sharp for project management. See you guys in a bit. Right, guys, welcome back after the break. So our last topic for tonight is project management. Slightly difficult topic, and it is also one of the important topics for September attempt. So first of all, what is a project? So a project is a one-off special activity which is other than the organization's usual day-to-day operations or business. Okay, so just remember, project is a one-off non-routine activity which is not part of day-to-day operations. So project is done for something specific. For example, let's say a company wants to expand and they are building another factory. So the construction of another factory is a project because it is a one-off special activity which is not part of their routine day-to-day operations. Similarly, if you talk about online, that the company wants to set up a web page and set up an online e-commerce system, and it already exists in physical space. So that is also a project whereby they are trying to set up everything which is required for an online trading platform. Similarly, when you implement a new system or a new ERP, that implementation is also a project. So anything which is one of special activity is project. Okay. Now, why is project important? What things we need to consider? Why are we doing or talking about projects? So, projects generally are expensive. They involve big money. Okay, so you need to do a proper planning before you initiate any project. Okay, the second reason is some of my core business strategies depends on a project. For example, one of the core strategy for this year for my company is to invest in online sales. Okay, but in order to in start online sales, I first need to do a setup. I need to do a website. I need to upgrade my systems, all those things. So until and unless I set up the online stuff, I won't be able to initiate my strategy of having online sales. So projects are very, very important for businesses. Okay, so now something which is important, obviously then the board needs to make sure that all projects are controlled properly. Just give me a second, guys. I'm struggling with my marker. Okay, now it's okay. So there is proper project management steps which needs to be followed. You just can't you need to control a project in a disciplined and a structured manner. Otherwise, the project will go haphazard, it will go out of control, and in the end, you will realize that the project was a big flop, loss of money, loss of time, and loss of efforts. Okay, so what are the key project management steps? First of all, there has to be a formal project initiation document duly approved by the board. Extremely critical step. Because project involve extra money, extra resources. They require money, resources, time, and effort. You just cannot start a project without approval. So normally, most of the projects, or at least projects which are larger in size, are first needs a board's approval. So once the board approves a project, then it can, initiate and move into the execution phase. So the first and foremost step required in a good project management approach is the initial approval. The document is called project initiation document. This document is submitted to the board of directors. They read the project initiation document thoroughly. If they have questions, they will ask. And then if they think that the project is worthwhile, if they think that the benefits stated in the project initiation document is worth the risk and time and investment, they would approve the project. Otherwise, they will reject the project. So in case they approve the project will move further into the next stage. And in case the directors reject the project will immediately be finished and shelved. Okay, do you understand the high level concept? Now, let me look at any questions you guys have. Sir, can the CEO and his management approve a PID? It actually depends on the size, value, nature of the project and what kind of authority the board has delegated to the CEO. But generally, important projects or projects above a certain monetary threshold cannot be approved by the CEO. How is PID different from a business case? I will cover that in the formats. How do we solve a question that talks about tracking project variables? I will talk about that. Sir, who make the PID? Very good question. I will answer that. So, okay. Relevant questions, but I will answer at the right time. Actually, I'm struggling with my electronic pen. This is distracting me. So if you just give me a minute or so, I'll try and fix it. Just give me a minute. All right. So once the project gets approved, and the contents of a PID is a very important topic which we will do in a little bit. So supposing once the project gets approved, then it goes into the next phase, which is called detailed planning for each task. Okay. So obviously in the first stage, we just look at high level things, high level aspects of the project, which is required to decide, approve or reject the project. Once the project is approved, then only we go into detailed planning for each task within the project. After the detailed planning, the third stage is implementation. So we look at the detailed plan and we execute. So that's implementation. During implementation, there is regular progress monitoring of the project to see how the progress is monitoring in terms of timelines, in terms of quality, in terms of costs. Once the project is done, it is then tested, and then it is handed over to the intended users. Okay, pretty common sense thing that first there is initial approval, after that there is detailed planning, then execution or implementation, and throughout there will be regular progress monitoring. Once the project is completed, a thorough testing is done, and then the project is handed over to the users. Okay, now there are two very important documents which are prepared after the project is handed over to the users. So actually the first important document is a PID. That's the first important document. And then second important document, third important document. There are several documents here as well, like a project plan, progress report, but let's skip that for the time being. The important wise, 1, PID, 2 and 3. So a post-project review is a document in which we analyze whether the project followed the project management steps. Simple, that's it. We just try and see whether all these steps, all the discipline, all the steps mentioned under project management framework, were those properly followed or not. And the reason to see that is lessons learned, what went wrong during the project management phase, so that in next projects we are able to do better planning and better management. Okay, you can see here it says how the project was managed, means that all these steps were followed or not. The second important report is called post implementation review. Now this is a very important document. This actually assesses whether the project was successful or failure. Okay, so can anybody tell me how can we judge whether the project is successful or whether the project is a failure? I repeat my question. How can we judge once the project is completed and handed over? How can we judge whether the project was successful or it was a failure? Oh, very good. Did it meet the objectives? Effects on the profits? Comparing actual results with planned or expected results. Target is met or not? Excellent, excellent, impressive, guys. Very good. So completing a project on time or on cost, that's a small thing. The first thing is why the project was undertaken in the first place. So in the PID, the initial document, the benefits, the objective of the project, the purpose of the project, and more importantly, the future benefits must have been defined, that if we undertake this project now, this will result in higher revenues or higher profitability in futures. So all that benefits would have been clearly spelled out in the initiation document. So how do we make sure whether the project is successful or not? So then we start comparing actuals versus budget. So budget comes from here, actual comes from the actual results, and if the revenues, the actual incremental revenues, the actual incremental profits, actual benefits are in line with the promised benefits in the initiation document, then we will say the project is successful. So in summary, a post implementation review is a very important review, because based on this we decide whether the project was successful or a failure. Okay, right. Let me look at the questions. Yes, this is post implementation review. Okay, now when we track a project, okay, how do we track a project? From start. So a project starts and it goes, and after, let's say, 3 years or 1 year or 8 years, depending on the duration of the project, eventually it ends. So during this phase, from start till end, how do you track the project? How do you monitor the progress? Okay, so basically always remember that a project has 3 legs. How many legs? 3 legs. So I have seen 2-legged creatures. I have seen 4-legged creatures, but I don't think I have seen a 3-legged creature except projects. So always remember by this stupid joke that a project has 3 legs. It stands on 3 legs. The first leg is quality. The second leg is timelines or duration, and the third leg is cost. It's like a tripod. Okay, those of you who have studied science, it's a tripod. So now if we want to track the project tightly or properly, we need to track 3 things. We need to track the quality aspects of the project, we need to track the timeline or duration, and we need to track the costs of the project. So the question if says what are the key variables, or how the board can track the key variables of any project, you will say that the 3 most important key variables of project is quality, time, and cost. And then you will, under each of them, you will explain in the context of the case how the quality is progressing, how the timeline is doing, and how the cost is behaving. Okay, the interesting thing here is that these 3 legs, quality, time, and cost, they are most of the time mutually exclusive. Means that if you want to improve the quality of the thing you are constructing, then obviously time will go up and cost will go up. If you want to reduce the time, then you have to compromise on the quality, and cost, I don't know. If you want to reduce the cost, then you need to reduce the quality of the project and reduce the time. So it's basically mutually exclusive. So that's why the board really needs to focus on the quality, time, and cost to tightly control the project variables. Okay. Let me take questions before I move to the last thing. How would we track quality? It seems subjective. Okay, Zafar, I have used the word quality, but in the real life, let's say the project is about the construction of a factory. So there will be milestones, there will be certain steps, building, digging the foundation, uh, construction, the buildings, and installing the plant and machinery. So all these are tangible things. So in real life, you can actually track the milestones of your major activity of the project. That's what I meant by quality. Okay. Are these constraints of the project? No, these are not constraints. Constraints are human resource, financial resource, and all those things. I will talk about it. All right. So now so in the exam there was two questions so far. One was on tracking project variables. So if you would have used the word quality, time, and cost in your answer and written like 4 or 5 lines for time, 4 or 5 lines on quality, linking from the case, and there was information in the case, you would have scored full marks. The second type of question which has been asked a couple of times is about the PID, the contents of a PID. So here is a list of contents of a PID, but I will hide it for a few minutes. Okay. Now I want you to think. As I said, that project involves big money, big resources. There are risks associated with the projects, right? That is why large and important projects are always approved by the board before they are executed. Correct? Now imagine that you are sitting on the board of directors. You are the CFO or the finance director or even a non-executive director. Now you are sitting on the board and someone is proposing a project of $1 million. Okay, the project would require initial outlay or initial cost of $1 million. So it's a serious project. And they are now seeking your approval. They want you to take a look at the project and give them approval to proceed and sign off on a $1 million cash for them. Okay. Now, you being a director, what kind of basic information would you expect or would you require about the project to help you understand and help you decide whether you should approve the project or reject the project? So think of 3, 4, 5 basic items you would want to see in a project initiation document so that you can decide to give approval or to reject. 10 seconds. Think of 3, 4, 5 items as much as you can. Payback period, okay. Benefits, okay. Project objectives, NPV, time, constraints, benefits, scope, cost benefit analysis, risk assessments, time, stakeholders, very good. Purpose, I'm just reading quickly your comments. Resources, benefits exceed the costs, risks, reputation, objective, team, scope, time frame, morale, constraints, returns, cost, value addition, stakeholders. Excellent, guys. Excellent. Monitoring, that's a good one. Monitoring, Sudhir, is a good one. No, Sarah. Human resource, review plus monitoring, risk, quality. Excellent. So now let me show you the list. What are the contents of a PA? First of all, I would expect to see a clear, defined scope and objective. What is the purpose of the project? Why we gonna do this project? How it's gonna benefit us as a company. After that, I want to see a crisp cost benefit analysis. I want to see the the total costs involved. And after that, once the project is complete and up and about, what will be the incremental benefits which we will realize in future years? So I want to see a proper cost and benefit analysis, and maybe from that I will calculate my NPVs, my IRRs, because if it's a long-term, multi-year, my paybacks. So all feasibilities, all these technical, financial analysis, financial profitability, rate of returns, all this I want to see. Okay. Then I want to see who are the key stakeholders. Stakeholders are people who are either, are affected by the project or involved in the project or interested in the project. So there are two types of stakeholders. There will be internal stakeholders and external. So I think this list is internal and this list is a list of external stakeholders. Okay. So first of all, who is a project sponsor? The project sponsor has to be clearly defined in the project initiation document. Who is the project sponsor? So sponsor means who is the person who is responsible or answerable. So generally students, they think that the sponsor would be the the company itself because it is financing or sponsoring the project. That's true, but that's very high level, right? Who in the company? So normally one of the executive director becomes the sponsor. Now it all depends on the type of the project. So if it's a finance related project, whom do you think will be responsible? So if it's a finance related project, then finance director or the CFO would be the most appropriate person because he will be the person who leads the finance department. And because it is a finance related project, who other than the finance director is the best? Oh no, not Hassan Rosani, finance director. Thank you, Kamran, good one. All right. So if it's a marketing project, like it's a website project for marketing and revenues, then maybe the marketing director or the sales director will become the sponsor. So he is a person who is ultimately responsible and answerable to the board. So this is the person who is actually proposing the project to the board. So the question is, someone asked before, who prepares the project initiation document? So it is being prepared by the person who is proposing the project, who is owning the project, who will be answerable or interested in the project. It is being prepared by the sponsor. The project is the baby of the sponsor. Okay. So it's very important that the sponsor should be identified at the outset. Then the second most important person is a project manager. That who will be the project manager of this project. Normally we want a full-time project manager. A part-time project manager, it doesn't work. Then third aspect which should be covered is project team. Okay, so sponsor, project manager, project team. Against project team, it's important that it should be a full-time team. And then users or concerned department. Normally, which department will be using, who is the main beneficiary of, in case of a software, if it's a marketing software, then if it's a inventory software, then inventory department will be the user. Okay, so these are mostly internal stakeholders, the sponsor, the manager, the team. Now there could be, certain projects might affect your customers, like an online project, online sales project, a website, or transaction, online revenue, or online ordering systems. They affect customers. So customer will be your key stakeholders. Sometimes a project can affect your suppliers. For example, you are doing a just-in-time, or you are integrating your system with your suppliers. Sometimes the project can affect the government. Okay, for example, VAT or taxes or e-filing or e-reporting. I don't know. Sometimes the project can affect society, like if you're building a road or a factory, it can affect society. So main thing is that all the key stakeholders, whether internal and external, they should be appropriately identified in the project initiation document. After that, we will talk I would like to know the duration or timelines of the project. What's the deadline? How long will the project run? I would like to know any major risks associated with the project. So whenever we talk about risks, just keep in mind the three legs: quality, the risk that the requirements or quality might not be met, the risk that the project might overrun its timeline, and the risk that the project might overrun the costs. Okay. And after risk, we talk about any major constraints. Just keep in mind, you can talk about human resource or expertise, financial resource, technical resource. And lastly, project governance and monitoring procedures, that how the project will be governed, who will govern the project, will the full board of directors will be governing the project progress, or does is there a small committee or group to which the board has delegated the monitoring and governance aspects? What will be the frequency of the progress reports, monthly, quarterly? So all these comes under project governance and monitoring procedures. So can you count for me how many items? Scope, cost, stakeholders, duration, risk, constraints, projects. 7 items, okay? But in this, so do I have any questions on what about assumptions? Yes, sometimes there are key assumptions. So you can also insert key assumptions in a PID. Should a PID in that order? Generally, yes, but not hard and fast. That's a logical order, right? You start with objectives, then you look at costs, benefits, stakeholders, risk, constraints. Business case is, I will cover business case tomorrow in the format. Main document is PID, okay? Project outputs may be one of the contents. Yes, you can. I mean, you can add whatever contents you want, okay? There is no hard and fast format of a PID. It depends from company to company. It depends from nature to nature of the projects. I'm just trying to give you a very basic PID from exam point of view. Okay, I don't want you to add a lot of extra stuff because you guys are not doing a PhD in project management. You're just gonna give SBL exam. So my format is just the bare basics from an exam point of view. A business case is something different. A business case justifies the project. It kind of analyzes the current situation or problem. Then it talks about the possible options, and then it evaluates the pros and cons of the options. Okay, that is another document, but it is related. And then a PID is actually a more detailed and a more specific document to for any particular project. Right, so let's do a question on PID. Wait a second. Project initiation documents, SBL specimen number 2, Railco, question number 5B, the format required. Oh, so we had 7 items. Here we have 10 items. How come? Why we have 10 items? The scope and objective, cost and benefit. The sponsor is the 3rd item, then manager, team, and then other than that, I've mentioned like key, so these key stakeholders. So this was 1. Okay. Duration, risk, constraint, governance, and monitoring. Okay, it's very similar except for that in this format I have broken up into 4 items. Okay. Professional skills is communication. That's this format and your layman simple English language. So let's go for specimen 2, question number 5B. We have exactly 30 minutes. I think we will be able to do that before that. I go back. Specimen. Which one is this? Specimen 1? No. I want specimen 2. Refresh. Specimen 1, specimen 2, this one. Start. So you see, when you will start the paper, now listen very carefully, the CBE guys. When in the exam platform and you will start the paper will not immediately appear. It will first, there will be some instruction, some introduction. So you just press next here. You see the next at the right bottom, you press next, 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 next. It says you have not yet viewed the entire screen. Scroll down. Okay, so I scroll down. I go to the end. Acha baba. Okay, okay. Next, next. Okay, you have not viewed the entire screen. Okay, I'll go down. Next. Are you ready? Are you ready to begin your exam? Yes. And then you will reach your paper. Okay. Sometimes if the next doesn't work, you need to scroll down and then it will allow you to go to the next one. Whoa, 5B. So let me click on question requirement 5. It says produce a project initiation document which could be used by Railco to assist in planning the implementation of an online ticket system. So we need to produce a PID of 8 marks, and then there is 2 marks for communication skills of PID, so 10 marks. Okay. So can we quickly first make the format of a PID? I will open a word processor. I will draw a table. Do you remember table here? I click on table. I need 2 columns and several rows like this. I will write here, oops, no. I will first give the heading task 5. We always remember to give the headings because all your questions are supposed to be done in the same Word document. Okay, there is no separate document for each question. So don't ever forget to give the question number, otherwise the examiner won't know where you are starting and where you are ending the question. You will give the heading project initiation document, you will select, you will center, you will give heading 1, underline. Okay, now after that I will insert the table, 2 columns, several rows. I will write here, no, I will just write here scope / objective. What else? Cost and benefit. Sponsor. Project manager. Project team. Duration. Key risks. Constraints. Governance and monitoring. So these are the standard minimum items in a project document. I will resize the column. I will just drag it and bring it here. Maybe I select all and change the format to paragraph heading 3 so that it becomes a bigger, more openness is there from a presentation point of view. Okay. Or maybe I just select this column and make it paragraph 3. Yeah. So now format is ready. Let's read the background. So you are a project manager working for the director of projects and infrastructure of Railco. Okay, got it. I will highlight it. That's my role. And whom do I work for? Director of projects and infrastructure of Railco. So I'm also an employee of Railco. The director of projects and infrastructure is putting forward a proposal to the board of directors of Railco for a project to invest in an online ticket sales system. So what is the project for? It's a project to invest in a online ticket sales system. The project should be fully operational within 12 months. Okay, another important information. But would need to be undertaken by an external firms of developers, as Railco does not possess the internal expertise. So who will be like, running this project? External team of developers. However, Railco would manage the project. So we will manage, but the team will be outsourced, like from external firms. Very interesting. So now with this limited information, can I try and make the PID? So the first one is, it says the project's a project to invest in an online ticket sales systems. Where can I copy this? Where can I fit this? Can it go under cost benefit? Objective, yes, that's the high level objective. What is the project about? It's a project, A capital, to invest in an online ticket sales system. No fancy stories, full stop. Now we need to talk about costs and benefits. So they haven't mentioned the costs and benefits. I don't have any numbers here. Okay. In fact, I think we haven't done this question in detail. Okay. So what will be, so if you don't have any information, can you just give a general idea of what could be the costs associated with online ticket sales system if you want to implement online? So just as a background, it is a rail company of that country, and currently they have physical ticket booths at the stations. They don't have, because passengers cannot book an online ticket at all. Okay, because of that, there is a lot of fraud happening, because the passengers who are in a hurry, they don't want to stand in queues or in lines to buy the physical ticket. They just get on the train without tickets. And then the company feels that if we offer online tickets options, then customers will buy tickets. So because right now they don't offer online ticket buying system, there's a lot of fraud, or can I say revenue leakages, in the sense that customers are not buying tickets and just riding the trains for free. That's the background. So now they want to implement an online ticket sales system. So there will be a hardware costs, correct? You need larger servers and etc. There will be a website development costs, right? We might need to upgrade our IT department, because now we have an online system. Upgrade IT department. Maybe we need some. I think it's enough. How about some benefits? So listen, I don't want benefits which are non-monetary. When we talk about this section, cost and benefit, it has to be monetary benefits, so that you're able to calculate the NPVs, the IRRs, the paybacks. So benefit would be incremental revenues. Okay, because in the case it says that because of lack of online they are losing revenues. Khalas. I can underline just to make it look more attractive. Now, who should be the sponsor of this project? I had mentioned during my lecture that the sponsor is a senior person, mainly the director level person. So do you see any director mentioned in the exhibit? Okay, as simple as that. D capital. Okay, so I'll go at director of projects and infrastructure of Railco. No need because it is an internal document. So that should be the sponsor. Now, who's the manager? You are the project manager. So what will you write here? What's your name? You will write you, okay? Or you will write me. I don't know what you will write. Interesting. Project manager, maybe myself, SBL student. I don't know. What's now project team? What information is given on the project team? It would need to be undertaken by an external firm of developers as we do not possess internal expertise. Control C, put it here. Project team will be project will be undertaken by an external firm of developers as we do not possess the internal expertise. Duration 12 months. Key risks. Okay, so can you think of something? What can go wrong with the software? Maybe security, maybe it's not user friendly. The software, just write anything. Software may not be able to fulfill all customer requirements. I don't know. That's a possibility. Timeline. The project may overrun how many months? What's the duration? 12 months. The project may overrun 12 months. What's the cost risk? The project may exceed the cost budget approved by the board. That's it. Constraints. We need to talk about human resource or expertise, financial resources. If you can't, write anything, just leave the heading here and move on. No problem. Why? Because the examiner has not provided relevant information. So I just demonstrated to him that I know constraints, and under constraints I would have covered human resource or expertise or financial resources constraints, but because the information is not there, I'm not putting anything. Governance and monitoring, it's a 1-year project, right? The Railco board of directors should monitor the project on a monthly basis, because if it's a short project, right? So if you suggest quarterly monitoring, it's too less. So since it's a 12 months project, I would suggest it can be monitored on a monthly basis or bi-monthly. Bi-monthly means once in 2 months. Okay, so that's it. Let me show you how it looks. Wow, good job, Hassan. Excellent. 10 marks. I can easily give you 7 marks if you've done like this. Professional marks is for communication. So communication means the nice format, a professional format. So I can bet this is a very nicely driven format. And another thing is that the language should not be technical. It should be suitable so that the entire board of directors can understand. So I've deliberately used a very simple language. So I think I can score 7 out of 10 on this. Any questions? Okay, board should ask from the sponsor. Yes. Okay. The key stakeholders. Oh, yes. Key stakeholders heading is missing. Excellent, guys. Excellent, guys. I think I need to. How do I add a row? I want to insert key stakeholders after the team. So I select this row. I right click. I go to row and I say insert row before. Okay. You see, I got a row. I will write key. So who do you think are key stakeholders? Maybe the passengers, maybe the railco board. Okay, just I'm just putting a couple of stuff. Thank you for that. Key stakeholders, customers. In case they call their customers passengers. Okay, so I want to stick with the word government. A human or a human resource constraint means that you might struggle to find relevant staff or relevant experts needed for the project. So in this case, they already said that they will, engage a firm of external consultants. A financial constraint would be that how the company will arrange the investment, the money required for a project. Will they take loans or will they be internally generated? Is there a cost of capital? That's a constraint. Okay. Right. Now, since we have 10 more minutes, let's do one quick question on this is a specimen paper. So let's do one question. Let me remember, was it September co-4? Okay. So this question I'm just doing extra because we have time and this will actually test your knowledge. I will go to past exam. I'm looking for September. This one. So in this question, they already gave you a PID in one of the exhibit. Let me zoom this. So in September 2018, they gave you a PID. And they said that this PID was prepared by a junior staff And since now you have joined and now you are the project manager, so you are now reviewing the contents of this PID, and you need to identify, critically evaluate. Critically evaluate means you need to find out the negative things. So they said that try and please let us know what things are missing from this PID. So take 1 minute, recall the 7 items or 10 items or 11 items, whatever we discussed, and see what items or elements are missing from this PID. So this PID was prepared by a junior staff. So you are the project manager and you are reviewing the PID prepared by your staff, and you're supposed to identify gaps and weaknesses. 1 minute, and let me know at least 3 missing items from the checklist. Very good, very good. Excellent, guys. I think you are on top of this topic. I'm impressed. Well done. Okay, so first of all, I want to see objective or scope. Do I see objective or scope? Project aims and background, introduction, fine. Background, fine. Business case, financial budget, time, risk. So where is the scope and objective? This needs to be specifically there, called something called scope and objective. What is the bloody objective of the project? I don't see that. So the first thing, I will shoot that I will shoot that subordinate who prepared this PID. I will tell him, you idiot, where is the project scope and objective? And I will throw this on his face, and I will pull his hair, and I will throw him out of the window. Okay, right, scope and objective is missing. Then I want to see cost and benefits and feasibilities. So yes, he's included a business case which covers the benefits and costs and progress payments. All right, it sounds okay to me. Then I want to see the sponsor. Okay, the heading of sponsor is there. Then I want to see the project manager. It's there. Then I want to see the project team. I don't see the team. So I will again snatch his hairs and slap him, and I will tell him, where the hell is project team? And after that, stakeholders. Where are the key stakeholders? I don't see that heading. I will kill that guy. And after key stakeholders, I know for a fact that in this project, the key stakeholders are passengers, the government, all those things. Okay. Risks. Oh, there's a heading called risks. Excellent. And constraints. Okay. The time and cost constraint. Fine, I'm happy. I don't see the word quality, but at least constraints are there. So that's it. But the bad news is, ladies and gents, the question was to critically evaluate the PID and recommend what needs to be done. So obviously, if you are saying the scope and objective is missing, then you need to draft a scope and objective and tell that stupid bugger that this is how you need to draft and insert. If the timeline is missing, project team is missing, then you need to draft a certain 1 line or 2 line about project team and tell him this is how it should be done. So there's a recommendation involved as well. Okay. Right, guys. Very nice. So we are done with project, mostly the PID. Do we need to explain what is scope and objective? Ria, I will kill you. Do you need to explain to the board of directors what is a objective scope? No definitions. Okay, you just draft a scope and objective of this particular project. Okay, please change your mindset. That is why majority people fail, because they go theoretic, and examiner doesn't give marks for theoretic or general explanations. Now, if you remember, like, there are 4 more minutes. So if you remember yesterday's lecture, I told you that there are 2 types of exhibits. Remember, there is a one-to-one exhibit and there is one-is-to-many. And in the first 1 hour, we cannot read all the exhibits. So which exhibits we will read first? We will read one-is-to-many exhibits first. Okay. So then the next question is, how do we identify one-is-to-many exhibits? So there are certain types of exhibits which are generally one-is-to-many, like board meeting minutes. So all, generally the board meeting minutes are one-is-to-many. Annual reports, website page, transcript of an interview, maybe press releases. So 70–80% of the time, these particular exhibits are one-is-to-many, meaning that they contain information, a variety of information, which is supposed to be used in more than one question. And then what are the hints about one-is-to-one exhibits? They are mostly financial statements, financial projections, any weird specific topic, it's one-is-to-one. So now let's try and guess. So here the exhibit overview is overview. Then the next item is extracts from most recent annual report. I'll try and open it. Okay, so this is a chief executive statement. So annual report obviously will consist of variety of information, and you can also judge from the length of the exhibit, the headings, board, the audit committees, the risk. It is definitely a one-to-one or one-to-many. Let me know. Very good, very good. Let's look at this one. Press release announcing the new road. By the name of it, although it's a press release, but it says announcing the new road. So it's got to be a specific thing, and I think the size would be small. If you look at the size, what do you think? One-is-to-one or one-is-to-many? Yeah. So I will skip that. When I'm reading, I will read the overview. After that, I will read the extracts. After that, I will skip this. I will just take a 30 seconds look. Just look at it for 30 seconds. Announcing new road between G and Lake Eta. Okay, we have identified a preferred partner, low price, end. Okay, khalas. So I will skip it. Now look at this: forecast revenue and cost for new road. So financial projections, forecast, this and that generally is what? One-is-to-many, right? One-is-to-many, forecast revenue? No? Say yes or no. One-is-to-many? Yeah. Let's have a look at it. So it is just a very specific, specialized financial thing, right? So I will just pick this up. I will skip this for the time. No, not. I will just take a quick look for 30 seconds. I don't want to go blind by not looking. 30 seconds, progress payments. It tells me about progress payments. Then there is a heading called, I'll just take a look at the headings. Projected costs, years, total, the cost is there. Oh, wow, that's it. Okay, I'll skip it. 121. Outline contents of a PID. So, again, it sounds very specific that it is telling me the contents of a PID. So it can only be used in a question relating to project management or PID, right? So I expect it to be 1:1. I will skip. Then transcript of an emergency meeting. And this meeting is between who and who? So this meeting is between the chief executive, the chairman, the risk manager, and the consultant. So what do you think? 1:1 or 1:many? So meetings, board meetings, and all those are generally 1:many. Okay, board meetings. So there is not the board here, but at least the chairman is there, the chief executive there, like 4 people are there. It's an emergency meeting. It look at the size. So generally 1:many are lengthy exhibits. Okay, so I would read this one because I know it's a 1:many. And then report interview with Burton Vader. It's an interview with the CEO. But looking at the size, I would imagine it's 1:1. Big data. Okay, that's a 1:1. So in this case, I can see that annual report. This one is 1:many. And transcript of emergency meeting. So there are 2 1:many. I will read these 2 first and then I will move to the smaller ones. Okay. So with this, ladies and gents, I would now wrap up tonight's session. And please remember, tomorrow is the last day and I would be disclosing and discussing a lot of important stuff for tomorrow, including important topics for last moment revision, list of practice questions. I will discuss the technical articles of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I will then recap all the formats, recap all the professional marks, and then I will I will give more time to your questions. So please do not miss tomorrow. And till then, take care and good night.